Welcome to Rotofanatic's Quality Start for July 14th, 2020. Let's see what's going on in baseball today. This is Byron Buxton, center fielder for the Minnesota Twins. What if I told you that Byron Buxton was injured yesterday? Would you believe it?
No way!
Yes way. Sadly, Byron Buxton hurt his left foot yesterday at Target Field. He had to be carted off of that field a short time later. Manager Rocco Baldelli said the initial once-over looks promising, but they're going to do the imaging today to find out more. But he is optimistic. Here's Rotofanatic's own Dave Funnell on Buxton and what the Twins do now.
One has to wonder who now plays center field. The likely scenario sees Max Kepler shifting over to center field and Jake Cave replacing Kepler in right. Who is Jake Cave? Well, in 2019, Cave was sneaky good despite his high strikeout rate. After an abysmal 29-game start, Cave came on strong and finished the year with a 12.5% barrel rate, a 90.5 mile per hour exit velocity, a 360 xwOBA, and a 430 hard hit percentage. In other words, over his 228 plate appearances, he was above average and held his own.
Thanks, Dave. Now it's time for the catch of the day.
Sir, rubber ships are coming into our sector.
Good. Our first catch of the day.
And wouldn't you know it, it's in Comerica again, and green eggs and ham! Here's our very own Chris Clegg talking about Riley Green and his massive potential.
Riley Green is a prospect out of the Detroit Tigers system who has taken Twitter by storm yesterday by ultimately robbing C.J. Cron of a home run in summer camp. He's a left-handed hitter who was drafted 5th by the Tigers in the 2019 draft. There's a lot to like in this hit tool. He's a plus hit tool, has above-average power, and ultimately is a great fielder as well. And so for fantasy purposes, Green is a prospect to watch. He's young. He's only 19 years old. In 221 plate appearances, he hit 5 home runs and stole 5 bases with a 271 average. He has a nice OBP floor as well. There's a lot to like in that profile. Green's a player that I'm watching and trying to grab in a lot of dynasty leagues right now before the value gets out of control.
Thank you, Chris. Excellent stuff. Willie Calhoun, unfortunately, left yesterday's intra-squad game with a tight right hip flexor. His injury is not thought to be serious, and it's currently day-to-day. Catcher Robinson Chirinos left Monday's game after Scott Heineman slid into home plate on a force play in the top of the second inning. Fortunately, images came back negative. However, Rangers manager Chris Woodward did mention Chirinos felt rather sore after being taken out and will be evaluated further on Tuesday. Over in the ATL, Kristen Pache hurt himself sliding into second base. After a few minutes lying there in agony, he was able to walk off the field under his own power. Glad to hear it, Christian. The Gateway to the West was hoping to have Jordan Hicks back in their bullpen effort for 2020. But after Tommy John surgery last season, he's decided to sit out 2020 and start fresh in 2021.
Baseball stuff!
Baseball stuff!
Cool! Can we play? I'll be Nomo. You can be Jose Canseco.
Stud prospect of the Mariners, Jared Kelenic, hit not one, wait for it, not one, but 2 home runs yesterday in the Mariners intra-squad tune-up at T-Mobile Park. Kelenic is a highly touted prospect that was part of the Edwin Diaz deal with the New York Mets. And in case you were wondering, the Mariners used artificial crowd noise on both home runs. Former number 1 overall pick out of Vanderbilt, Dansby Swanson, is looking to put it all together this season. Here's our own Rotofanatics, Chris Clegg, on Swanson's potential.
So Dansby Swanson is one of my favorite players to take in fantasy drafts for 2020. His overall line in 2019 was pretty average. But if we look at the first half, through July 4th actually, before an injury happened, in 88 games played, 375 plate appearances, he had 17 home runs, scored 58 runs, and 58 RBI. He also stole 7 bases with a 274 batting average. So what happens if we take that out to 162 games? That would end up with 690 plate appearances, 31 home runs, 106 runs scored, 104 RBI, 18 stolen bases, and a 274 batting average. That's a guy that is likely a top 100, if not a top 50 pick. That's a really exciting player.
Top-notch stuff, Chris. Here's Max Scherzer on the mound in Nationals Park. Scherzer was his old dominant self in this intra-squad game. 4 innings, 9 Ks, 2 hits. I am certainly not bitter that the Tigers offered him a low-ball $144 million offer before he signed with the Nationals for $80 million more than that. Nah, I'm good. The Blue Jays hit a bunch of home runs yesterday. Whee! This is Alejandro Kirk, 5'8", 265, highly touted prospect. Mark Shapiro loves this guy, apparently. But I bet he loves this guy even more. This is Bo Bichette teeing off to the opposite field, and that ball will leave the yard in the Rogers Center. And then Teoscar Hernandez said, well, I want to get involved too. And then he went Apo Taco. The Blue Jays are talking about playing their home games in Buffalo possibly this season. Stay tuned. This is John Means, the Orioles' opening day starter. Here once again is our very own Rotofanatic writer, Dave Funnell, talking about John Means.
One player I'm excited about this spring is John Means. As we learned this past weekend, he hit 94 miles per hour with his fastball. If he can maintain this uptick while continuing his changeup dominance and increase his soon-to-be elite slider, he's someone to not just monitor, but also roster in the right situation. Wins may elude him, though, because the O's are not good by any means. Haha. But John Means is one of their bright spots with the potential to be even brighter.
Thank you, Davey. Now it's time for This Day in Baseball, July 14th. Henry Aaron hit his 500th home run on this date in 1968. He did it off Mike McCormick of the Giants, and the Braves went on to win 4-2. And on that very same day that Hank Aaron hit his 500th home run, Don Wilson threw a no-hitter for the Houston Astros. How about that? In another coincidence, on last week's episode of This Day in Baseball, we talked about Larry Durker of the Houston Astros throwing a no-hitter in 1976. I had no idea there were so many no-hitters at the Astrodome. And then another no-hitter in 1995. Ramon Martinez beat the Marlins 7-0. He was perfect for 7 1/3 before walking the legendary Tommy Gregg. But he still got the no-no.